content movies or real cinema, and is there a space for both? So this is the sort of idea that I have been thinking about and running through my head. There's been all of this discourse to do with whether these types of sort of big blockbuster films are at the same level as real cinema. And I guess the question is there a space for both? And this question that I wanted to talk about, this discourse that we've been having for a while on social media and just in general, and especially if you are any type of cinephile or any type of lover of cinema, then this is definitely something that you have been thinking about or have been talking about or hearing about. The results of box office that we've been seeing, there have been quite a number of box office bombs from certain films and other films that have done amazingly, and it's sort of this confusing idea of whether real cinema gets to have its space in comparison to these sort of big blockbuster films that feel more like products. Of course, recently, the thing that really sort of cemented this idea in my head that I've been thinking about is the release of Marvel vs. Deadpool. This was a film that, whilst I have been probably completely off Marvel in terms of my preference, in terms of not really being interested in anything to do with Marvel for about the last almost 2 years now. I think Black Panther Wakanda was the last film that I saw, and I actually liked it. Films that I'd seen that year included Wanda, Doctor Strange film that I'd seen in the cinema, and Thor Love and Thunder, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So for me, I enjoyed the Doctor Strange film and I really loved, obviously I'm a fan of Sam Raimi, especially his Evil Dead franchise, and I'm a big Evil Dead fan of the franchise. So I loved that being incorporated in the film, and I thought it was really interesting that Marvel was working with this prolific, iconic filmmaker who of course has dabbled in both independent cinema as well as blockbuster fare with the Spider-Man franchise as well. I thought the melding of the different worlds was really cool for Marvel, and I liked them doing that. Obviously, that wasn't the first time they'd done that. Ryan Coogler, as an example, was a great sort of meshing of independent filmmaker or artist with this big brand. He has done incredible work for Marvel and for blockbuster cinema in general, and obviously last year, in fact, we have seen that occur even outside of Marvel with Barbie, the melding of a huge IP such as Barbie and the studio with Greta Gerwig herself. So of course these things can be done and they can be done well, and it's always great when we see them being done. However, when we have something like Thor Love and Thunder, I remember being in the cinema and sitting through it and really just feeling like I don't think I can do this anymore with Marvel and with this franchise. And obviously it's a bit unfair because it's one movie, but for that period of time I'd just been feeling like, you know, all these different films, and then there was the TV shows, and you just felt like you were on a never-ending cycle, this never-ending hamster wheel of content that you had to consume, and if you didn't consume it, you were left out. For me, that was a big turning point for me to realize that actually I don't have to watch all of these things. I don't have to go to the cinema to see every superhero movie. I can just opt out And for me, that was really the year where I was just like, I think I'm done with Marvel content in general. And funnily enough, even saying that, I wasn't really interested in it either. In terms of the TV shows, I think the only one that I bothered to check out was the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, which I think I definitely didn't finish, but I think I maybe got 3 episodes in and I was just bored and just, nah, I'm done. There obviously has been this term that we've seen called Marvel fatigue and superhero fatigue, and I definitely think that is something that in general we have been seeing and feeling, and a lot of people I think are definitely sort of over that. I think there was just so much and just an oversaturation of content for the last couple of years, of course, with the whole Avengers era, Avengers Infinity War, Endgame, the Brie Larson movie is just so much. And it just, of course, that period was so fun and it was so amazing to be interested and engaged with something that so many other people loved as well, and it felt like this big sense of an event. But yeah, at a certain point you do get over it. I think that when we think of last year with Barbenheimer, I think that was a real sort of like big shift where clearly a lot of people are interested and starving for original cinema and original films in general. And I don't want to necessarily try to put these things into different categories as though anything that is a big blockbuster is purely just content, but a lot of the ways that these big studios function and the way that they produce these things, it does feel like a big product. I mean, we've seen something like The Boys that has clearly been making fun of this for a while now, the TV show, and in the most recent season we've seen them just completely just lean into it even more with the satire and completely making fun of the Disney Marvel content machine. We had Furiosa, which was part of the Mad Max saga, absolutely bomb at the box office, and that was a big blockbuster fare that was made to sort of entice audiences, but it didn't connect. And personally for me, I'm a huge lover of Mad Max Fury Road. I have given that film 5 stars. It is perfect. It is a masterpiece. But for Furiosa, I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't see it in the cinema, unfortunately, but I didn't really enjoy it, and I thought it was pretty mid. So that's really unfortunate. But then when you have things like Bad Boys, the new Bad Boys, I think it's 4, Twisters, and of course Dune, these have all been either big franchise fare, things with big IP. Dune at this point is a franchise in itself. Behind it with Denis Villeneuve and the way that it's been made, it has a very sort of artistic sensibility, but at the end of the day it's still IP. All of these films, all of these different types of films have been able to do amazingly at the box office. Even animation has done amazingly at the box office. And whilst box office doesn't equate to a great film, because of course we've seen plenty of examples of great films that have bombed, I also think it has a way of being able to tell what people want or what people are looking for. And I think recently it seems as though there's been this 2 streams of consciousness, where one is content and it's product and it's meant to sort of just grab the attention of audiences, and then the other is artistic original filmmaking. For example, we've had Longlegs, which is a original horror film, do really, really amazingly at the box office, and not just in terms of money, but in terms of the way that people have been really embracing it. Even people who don't even necessarily like it, I think there's a general consensus that it's something that is quite interesting and has a place in filmmaking, in the cinematic space. And of course, any cinephile would want more of that. But in terms of something like versus Deadpool, I think it's becoming extremely tired to see the way that these films, which are supposed to, at the end of the day, these types of films are supposed to entertain audiences, but they've now just become this consistent machine where they're just meant to sort of grab people's attention. And of course, with these idea of cameos, it just creates this cyclical gratification and not really there to be an entire body of work. And I don't understand why that is. I think it's becoming quite, not scary, but it's becoming a bit sad really to see the way that that is moving, the direction that is moving in. And I will not be seeing Deadpool versus Marvel in the cinema. So I did look at it had leaked the cast list at the end of the film, and the amount of people that show up in that film, the cameos, it just feels so desperate, if I'm being honest, and so sort of just this clawing of like trying to grab as many people all around the world to watch the film just for the numbers, as opposed to making something that is just great art. That should always be the most important thing when it comes to cinema. Of course, you want to entertain, but when it just becomes something to instantly gratify people and it becomes fan service as opposed to making something worthwhile and meaningful, then it really does lose its quality and it loses its meaning, and it loses its worthiness, in my opinion. And so I don't know, is there a space for both? I think of course there's a space for both, but at the end of the day, I think it's all about how something is made and what the intentions are. And if we're going to continue to see movies like Marvel and Deadpool going in a direction of just being like products and content and things to just grab attention without any real, not to say that there wouldn't be any depth, because obviously, you know, the whole Deadpool franchise in itself is definitely comedic and satirical and meant to sort of poke and be fun and comment on society or whatever. But if it's just going to be sort of, I don't know, soulless and empty, then what's the point of these films? I would just prefer to watch things that are more artistic and original and interesting. And again, as I said, I think that there is definitely a place for both. As we've seen last year with Barbenheimer, there is a space for both. You can have a big franchise IP product with an original filmmaker with great quality and something interesting to say, a la Barbie, which I loved, and have something like Oppenheimer, which I didn't necessarily love, but obviously I'm a great fan of Christopher Nolan's work. You can have the two, have them be successful, have them be enjoyable, have them entertain, have them be of great quality.